The school was in Spring Valley. It's actually still there in Palm Harbor, last I checked. But it was basically like college for kids. You go there, you sign in, and then your education is all up to you. I was only there for fourth grade, but it was awesome because they expect you to learn to be responsible there, and they encourage you to be all independent and all that. But I was like, fuck you. I came to school and got on one of the computers, and and I would play Gunbound until I was hungry, and then I would go to the fridge. It was basically a home turned into a schooling place. It was like 15 kids ranging from ages 6 to 14, and they have a website now, I believe, where you can see pictures of it. But yeah, after I'd eat, I'd go play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Sonic Adventure 2 on the GameCube with my friends Lauren and Hunter because we were cool kids. And later on the day, our parents would come pick us up. Now, if you look on Google Maps at the Caladesi RV Park, you'll see that just to the left of it is a small cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac was and may still be home to my friends that I had outside of school. For the life of me, I can't remember their names, but there was one kid who lived with his dad, and he lived with his dad at one of the homes, and then some roller skater chick lived to the left of the home, and assuming you were facing from the street that led to the cul-de-sac I'm talking about, and she was kind of emo-ish, but I was super attracted to her. She was a bit older, so nothing ever came of that, but for the record, I remember walking in and seeing her fucking around on the very, very first beta of World of Warcraft, which is a game I would later go on to play, for those that don't know. And it actually eventually it led me here, making this video. It's a long story for another day, for those that don't know it. Anyway, there was them, and then two brothers, and they lived closest to Tampa Street. Tampa is the street that connected the trailer park to the cul-de-sac. There was actually a small creek that flows through there that's nestled into the streets that divides the two properties. And we would cross over that creek and go back and forth to jump over it. It was a real small thing, and we'd sneak through someone's backyard in that cul-de-sac instead of going all the way out to the street and Tampa Street and then walking over. But if I was skating or whatever, I'd take the street. Anyway, if you follow Tampa Street up, you'll get to the grocery store outlet that used to have a small card store built to the left of the building, like as an addition plaza type thing. You get the idea. And we'd all skate or ride our bikes, and we'd all go up that street, Tampa Street, to the card store just about every night to blow more cash on Yu-Gi-Oh shit. I had just turned 10, so it was acceptable. There was a bookstore near the area, and it was called Books A Million. And Books A Million would shut half the store down every Sunday morning and host a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. My mom would pick up my friends from school and my friends from the cul-de-sac, so Lauren and Hunter, and then my friends from the cul-de-sac, and she would take us there every Sunday. I don't think the girl was playing Yu-Gi-Oh with us. I don't think she was into it. She may have been. Don't quote me on that, but I don't have any memories of that being the case, but she'd just still hang out with us. Then she'd go off, my mom, she'd go off and do her book things or whatever adults do in bookstores and whatever. She loved books, though. I have all the books that she left in boxes right now in the back of my car. Well, most of them. Because I decided to fill out the bookcase in my living room with some of my favorite books of hers, if that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, dude, she was crazy into books. She grew up before TV was prominent, so I guess that makes more sense. But still, she was abnormally book savvy during my time with her. Where are we? Yeah. Anyway, about half a year goes by, and by this point, since we had left, she had I guess she had been doing a type of blog thing online, talking about our road trip and her experiences within it. She also started writing a book on her life. Hold up, let me move my chair up. And she got pretty serious about that for a while, but she never finished that up. I know she got pretty deep into it. Hopefully I can find it somewhere someday, like a rough copy or something. Anyway, the point is she spent a lot of time writing on her laptop. A fuck lot of time. She spent all day writing on this fucking laptop when she wasn't driving. And while we were in Florida, hey guys, so Fruity Loops crashed here, and I didn't notice until the rendering that I was missing a chunk, so I found out what it was, and this is me filling that in about 4 hours after recording everything you've heard and everything you're going to hear. So it's the slightly more present me for the next 5 minutes or so, up until I say that Fruity Loops is crashed. So anyway, while we were in Florida, one thing ended up leading to another, and she suddenly, meaning my mom, ended up suddenly having to go up to Oregon for something. So she hired Lauren's mom, which was one of my friends from the school that I was going to. She hired Lauren's mom to watch us for about 8 weeks, and we stayed at their place while my mom went up to Ashland, Oregon to meet with CWG, which is short for Conversations with God, which is short for a company based on a guy who writes down what God tells him about the world, and not out loud, of course, only in his head and face area, and only in his dome does God decide to place his voice. And his company. And the company happens to be run by that same guy. Anyway, the guy's name is Neil Walsh, and somehow she got in cahoots with him and ended up getting hired by him. Oh, I know what it was. She was always on this indigo shit about how I was an indigo child. To me, it always seemed like crap, and it still does. It just seems like another way of assuring parents that their kid is more special than your kid. But I got some special treatment through the years due to it, so I played along. Anyway, Neil's the guy who started all that shit up, or at least he was heavily involved with it. So she went up there to scope the place out after I guess he contacted her. I don't know how it all happened. But she went up there to just make sure it was a good place to settle down in Southern Oregon, And then she took the job without much hesitation, which is clearly better than UPS money-wise. And, by this point, Shelley, her mother, had completely cut her off of all funding, unless it was an absolute emergency, because my mom would spend everything on drugs and just dumb teenage 70s girl shit. She couldn't actually ever handle money responsibly. I was handling that shit for our family as soon as I was able to, but that, and by 40 years old, you're not looking for a job that just pays your bills. You're looking for a job. You're looking for something you're going to want to dedicate a lot of your time and energy to, something you don't hate. And this fell into that category. So she came back down after the 8 weeks or so, and within that same week we started the second part of our road trip. We came back down to Kerrville to say hi to everyone or whatever. I don't know, I was 10. I got to skate at some old places and stuff. Anyway, we took our time scoping out the West Coast as we worked our way up to Oregon. I also want to note that we stopped in Phoenix, Arizona to meet with the whole more of the whole indigo bullshit stuff, because Hunter's mom, Hunter was my friend from one of the from the school I went to with Lauren, that I mentioned. My mom became friends with his mom. My mom became friends with his mom through the whole indigo shit. Ugh, it's so fucking stupid. I hate talking about it just because I've gotten so sick of hearing it over just the amount of years I have. So yeah, we stopped in Phoenix, Arizona, to meet with them. And we stayed with them for a few nights, and that was cool. Although that little fucker, he stole my GameCube memory card. Okay, we all had GameCubes and shit for the specific purpose of being able to play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which is a GameCube game, and you can go through the levels and get little power-ups for your Chow. Chow are these little creatures in the Sonic world that you raise. Anyway, you can seriously dedicate months of your life to raising these little guys, which we did. And that's what gave it so much replay value. There's websites dedicated to building Chows in this specific single player non-online console game for GameCube, and then you can race them or make them fight or whatever. But I had this one badass Chow, and he snatched it, and he snatched my memory card the day before we had to leave, and denied it down to the last second. I was so mad. Fuck that kid. Not cool. Can't live in the past, though, you know what I'm saying? But God, I miss... that was my boy. Anyway, So once we got there to Oregon, we stayed at a small rundown trailer park in Ashland for about a week or two, and then we moved one town over to Talent. Now, even though school had finished in Florida for that year, that still wasn't the case over in Oregon. So I had to do like 3 more weeks or so of 4th grade in bitch ass Miss Cooper's class. So that was whatever. But it's kind of funny, and I'm gonna get a little bit off topic here because that's the moment that I met Carly Greco, and as many of you knew, Carly was my first, not first sex per se, but my first love, first heartbreak, all that crap, yada yada. But it was a process of 5 years with her, but and she lives in Florida now, near where I came from before just meeting her there, in Oregon. So I don't know. But she's the one whose brother was just shot that I was talking about. So yeah, we're still in contact, and she's a dear friend of mine, even though it's hard for me to stay in contact with her for personal reasons. Anyway, we lived in a trailer park there at the entrance to Talent, Oregon. I'll say for just under 2 years, more than 1.5. It was just called quote unquote American RV Resort. It's the first thing you'll hit once you pull into Talent off the highway. They had an old beat up tennis court there, and there's a small area right beside it on the other side of the fence that I guess the owner of the park, some old fuck, just stores old pieces, like weirdly formed constructions of plywood and tires and metal piping that wasn't too old, and just I took my little 10-year-old arms and built my ass a little skate park there and played around in that every single day. I mean, almost a year of coming home from school and fucking around in this tennis court. And I guess the owner didn't care because the court was so torn up anyway. He never really put anything back over the fence. I mean, I would have moved it if he wanted me to, but I think he wanted to fuck my mom was what it was. I remember that. And she wasn't too into him, but she used him like crazy since he owned the residency that we resided at. You know what I'm saying? So, poor old guy. Ugh. And that was Fruity Loops crashing again. I think it's a memory issue, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so school starts back up, and I'm going to 5th grade by this point. And I'm sorry if this seems too much about me. I mean, this isn't like a story that I'm writing down. I can only talk from my perspective here, so just whatever. I'm going to 5th grade, and I got to keep at least half of my class from the previous year, which was comforting. I wasn't the new kid, which was comforting as well. At least not completely new. I was by no means a Talent Elementary veteran. But this was the year. This year was another milestone for me. I started going over to Carly's house and stuff, which eventually became a daily routine. And by that point, I had found my way to the skate park near the center of the town. Talent is a super small town, only a couple thousand people. It's sandwiched in between big ass King Kong Medford and crazy hippie ass Ashland. So, there's also Phoenix, but Phoenix is fuck Phoenix, and it's 4 residents. So, I had developed a small group of friends from hanging out at the local skate park and school, and I had this thing with Carly just starting to bloom. And then my mom decided it was time to sell the trailer and trade the truck in for a more town appropriate car. We ended up selling the trailer for a major discount to a very sick old man. I'm sure he died in it since then. But we traded the car in for a Mazda, and my mom loved her little Mazda. It was a little cute red Mazda Speed. One of those little cute compact cars, you know what I'm saying? She called it her Zoom Zoom car. I don't know what year it was. But after that, we moved into some newly built apartments called Trenton Square. We lived in apartment Q. It was at the end of East Rap Road, which is slightly by the highway as well, right there, like the trailer park was, except a little bit closer towards Ashland. It's not as obvious as an opening into the town. Anyway, I actually ended up living just down the street from Owen, who I didn't actually meet until years later after we moved there. I didn't meet him until later on in like 7th, 8th grade. And I mean, we're still best friends to this day. And he still lives there, I believe. So, oh no, he doesn't. I actually think he moved. Or I think his parents may live there. I don't know. But I ended up finding out he lived right fucking there. But we ended up meeting at school first. So I don't know. It was funny. You'd have to be there. But it was convenient, is what I'm saying. We lived there until 2008. This is where I did all my middle school time. it was home to me during the time that I picked up my sponsorship and toured around a bit